Hi, I'm Jeff. I'm an alcoholic. Sean, thanks for asking me to speak. My sobriety date is June 26, 2016. I guess I'll just start off from the beginning. So, I was born in Virginia Beach. My childhood wasn't too unique compared to most people, maybe most people in the rooms. I don't know. There was a lot of abuse in my early childhood, which I was not really cognizant of at that time. I was very young, so probably like 2, 3, 4 years old. Fast forward a little bit past that, I moved to Illinois, where I live now. And, my mom has this joke that my first drink, she knew I was going to be an alcoholic because it runs in my family. And she said my first drink was when I was 3 years old because she came into the bathroom and I had drank an entire bottle of mouthwash. So she jokes that I was destined to come to AA at that point. So yeah, basically, after I moved from Virginia and I experienced a lot of trauma there as a very young kid, it was like a normal upbringing, single family house kind of thing. Throughout school, I had a lot of medical problems, and kind of from that point, once I was aware of how much I had wrong with me in terms of like medical stuff, I kind of already felt not a part of at all, and I got picked on a lot and it wasn't unique, that's just how it is, when you're younger. But yeah, it was rough. It was a little rough. So once I got into high school or like eighth grade, freshman year, I started experimenting with alcohol and marijuana, and it was fun. It was great, back then. It was a great time. It's like they say in the book, you have arrived. It got rid of all that social anxiety. I was able to make friends, like not only was I able to make friends, I had friends from every friend group in the school. I was no longer this like loner kid or like the sick kid who missed like 3 months of school at a time. I felt like I was a part of. I didn't have to put on that mask anymore, and slowly, actually pretty quickly, probably when I was 16 is when things start to got they became really dark. Got like heavily involved. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about drugs here, but I got heavily involved with cocaine and like other hard drugs like that. And from that point on, it just got worse and worse and worse. I first went to treatment when I was 12. I'm sorry, I was 13, and it was due to like a court ordered type of thing. So I was 13 in this treatment center with people that were doing hard drugs, and I couldn't really relate at that time. And I was like, this is insane that I'm here. After I got out of that treatment center, I was court mandated to go to meetings, and I went to a meeting here in Illinois. And the first meeting I went to, this dude pulled me aside and he said, "You're gonna fucking die if you don't stop what you're doing." And I was 13 years old, got arrested for smoking weed. I had no idea. I was like, "Fuck AA." Fuck all you people, fuck this meeting. I feel like that's kind of like a lot of people's stories when they get into AA is that they walk into this room and they see a bunch of old people or a bunch of people with a lot of sobriety, and it's just shocking and weird, and you don't want to have anything to do with it. So I'm not going to go, treatment center by treatment center and psych ward by psych ward, but let's just say there was a lot. I was a revolving door. I would get sober for a month. I would go to treatment, stay sober for maybe a week, go back to treatment, stay sober for a month, go back to treatment, go to a psych ward, blah, blah, blah. And this happened pretty much from age 13 to when I got sober at 22. And it got to the point, my addiction got to the point where I was physically abusing people. I was stealing from people. I was breaking into people's houses. My hangovers were so fucking bad. I couldn't, they would last like 3 days. I would drink and take pharmaceutical drugs at the same time. And like, I didn't have any regard for my health or safety at all. And I had people like over the years tell me, like, you're not doing well, like you don't look good. And I didn't heed that warning. And I just, at some point in my addiction, if I had to say, it was probably around like when I graduated high school, I kind of just realized like, this is how it is now. Like, I have fully embraced this lifestyle and I'm probably going to die. And that's just how it is. And so I just ran with it. I ran with it and I went as hard as I could. And that lasted for a while and nothing good came out of that. I don't want to share any war stories or anything, but it was a pretty hard bottom. I was homeless. I was like 90 pounds. I didn't have any socks. I was just wearing the same shoes for like a month and I had blisters all over my feet from walking around. And I would walk around my hometown when I was homeless and I'm looking for, it was always like looking for the next person that had the drugs or the alcohol or looking for the next place I could go so I could steal from somebody. And people would stop me when they saw me on the street and they would say, "Dude, like, are you okay?" I'd be like, "I'm great. Everything's great," and obviously I was not okay. So around 22, I remember I had just gotten out of like my 15th treatment center. And I was walking around this neighborhood trying to find somewhere to sleep for the night. And I looked down, it was like 2 a.m., and it was not a nice neighborhood. Looked down and I saw something like kind of glimmer on this on the ground. So I thought it was like a dime or something. So I go down and I pick it up, and it's a 20-year coin, a 20-year AA coin. And that was like the moment where I was like, okay, these things don't happen, like ever, right? This is, if there is a power greater than myself, this is it, right? And I was not sober at that point, but I knew that that was the sign to get sober. And I didn't get sober that day. It took me like probably another month to get to that point. I ended up going to treatment in Arizona for a long time, and then I followed that up with sober living out in LA. And treatment is not the answer to what we have. Like, it helped a great deal, and I met a lot of great people, and like really great people, and I learned a lot, and it was very intense, but it's not the solution. So I did treatment and sober living for about like 9 months, and I came back to where I was from, and I was petrified because every time I'd gotten out of treatment before, I would relapse within a week. So I was scared to death. And what I did was I just hit meetings. I went to this place where I'm from. It's called Serenity House, and it's a beautiful meeting hall. It's my favorite place in the world. It's the type of meeting you go to and you feel some sort of higher power in that place. I'm sure some of you can probably have similar places where you live, but I went there and I didn't stop going. I went every single day. And when I didn't want to go, people would just call me and say, we're going. And it was probably more than 90 meetings in 90 days. It was a lot. So yeah, first year of sobriety was weird. It was pretty crazy. I did the steps a few times. I've been sober almost 7 years, and like having like, it's not a lot of time that I have, but the time that I do have, what I realize is that like I've never been one of those people to tell other people what to do. I just try and share my experience, and like I have the tools at my fingertips. I have this book. I have like 5 big books sitting around my house, and it's up to me to do these things, right? Like I think I've done probably fourth steps with 4 different sponsors, and I was rigorously honest with about 3 of them. But I can still do inventory alone if I want, like that's one of the tools that I have that keeps me sane. Prayer and meditation is the biggest, and I'm not going to lie to you. Do I pray every single day? No. No, I would be lying if I said that. Would I like to pray every single day, morning, noon, and night? Of course. I know I'm a better person and I'm more spiritually fit when I'm doing the things that I need to do, but I'm also a human being and I'm an alcoholic. I'm still sick. And even if I get to have 20 years of sobriety, I'm still going to be sick, right? And I'm still going to have to do the things that I had to do the first 30 days of my sobriety. And I think that's kind of a lot of what I don't hear in AA as of lately is what it's like once you kind of get more than a few years. There's kind of this like complacency that starts to creep up, and you have to remember that, like, oh shit, there's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I came here to begin with, right? So that's why I come to these meetings. And like how life is now, man, like compared to how it was when I was using and drinking, oh my God, my problems are so minuscule. I have a full-time job with health insurance and benefits. I live with my girlfriend and my roommate who I met in sobriety. I make music. I'm able to do that and like somewhat make a career out of it. I don't wake up and the first thought on my mind is, how am I going to fuck somebody over? How am I going to get something in my system? Who am I going to rob? I don't wake up like that today. I wake up and it's like, oh, I slept wrong. Or like, oh, I got to go to work today. But it's like, these problems are nothing, right? And if I'm not spiritually fit, I'll look at these problems like they're the same type of problems I had when I was using, but it's so far removed from that. It's so far. Life is like really good, and like, of course, there's peaks and valleys. Like sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not so great, but that's just life. And it's all about the moments in between. It's not the moments that are really good or really bad. It's the moments in between that are the most peaceful for me personally. Sobriety is pretty good and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I know I could be doing more, and I don't like to beat myself up about it, but it's progress, not perfection. I think that's probably all I have to say for now. I hope that was enough time, but thanks for letting me speak.